I'm Sherry, I'm your MCVP TM.
I'm Aksha, I'm your NST.
And today we are here to tell you a little bit more about Team Standard. And Aksha, do you want to introduce the agenda today?
Today we're going to first talk about the purpose of Team Standards and why we created the tool. Then I'll go on to introduce how to use this tool in the best way possible. Then we'll talk about what are the contents of the tool, what are the different tabs and how to go about each of them. And then finally, we're going to put things into perspective and then conclude with the action steps that you have to take to implement this at your local level.
Yeah, so cool. Thank you, Akshara. So we'll talk about why Team Standard is so important and why we should really implement Team Standard in our LC first. As Isaac, we believe that leadership is a fundamental solution that can be developed in everyone, and we believe that we as an organization promise to develop leaders in our network through our members' journey, and we want to develop every members to have the qualities of being a world citizens, being solution oriented, being able to empower others, and being self-aware. But if only we deliver our team experience up to a certain standard, that we can actually facilitate a very, very good outer journey to invoke them to go through an inner journey and eventually develop them the 4 leadership qualities that we promise to deliver as an organization. And this is our leadership development model. And it is really, really important that we make sure that everything that we do is actually delivering leadership development model. And how can we make sure that every team experience that we are delivering up to a certain standard, and this is exactly what Team Standards here is trying to do, to make sure that every team experience that we are delivering is having a minimum criteria of things that we would do for our team members to enable them to develop themselves. So what is Team Standard? Team Standard is started from a few years ago by the ISAC International team, which collect a few GCP from the network to really understand how a good team experience looks like, and they come up with a certain category which consists of something like these, which is team. So in order to set up a team, they should be able to understand the purpose of the team, and they should come together and set up how they can make sure that these team function. So they will set some rules, some expectations, and then we go through plans which give the team some directions, and we'll have JD as well, so each team members understand what's the individual contribution towards the team. And in functional training, we empower our members by giving them the tool to perform the job that they have to do via training. And in order to keep our members accountable and having a certain performance, then we track and evaluate the performance in a regular basis to ensure that every member is actually performing in that role. And finally, we also ensure that we provide leadership development spaces to each and every single members that we have, and this is by providing them lead spaces and ensuring that they have a leadership development spaces by personal talk, and we take care of their personal development journey as well. So Shara, do you want to take over and tell them about the tool that we have created and why is it so important to use it?
The ultimate purpose of the tool is to make sure that Team Standards is actionable at all your LCs. We often talk about Team Standards, but we're not sure how to implement it at a local level. So our expectation is that you use this tool at every step of your team leader program. So what we want you to do is sit down with your team, sit down with the group of people you're leading. First of all, at the beginning of this term before you start working, at the beginning of every month, so that you can plan, you can decide on KPI strategies, you can redistribute your JDs, and even track how you're going to set up your team, or decide your team values, etc. So one of the most important things is that we do not want you to edit this tool. Instead, we want you to make copy of it. So how you do is you go to File, make a copy, and then change it to Team Standard tool at Team Standard at ISAC at your local committee, for example, London, and then save it, and then use that tool every month, create copies of it every month to work on it. I think now we'll go on to show what the different tabs are and how to use them. So the first one is the team, which covers the aspect of team standards. Under this, you're going to of you will get to fill in things about what are your values, how you're going to bond with your team, uh, what are your ground rules, whether each of your member has an email ID, whether they're approved on XPA, what are the communication channels, everything that relates to working together as a team, bonding as a team. You also have additional guidebooks and toolkits whose links have been uploaded on this sheet, which you can use as reference. And that's about team. And this is specifically in the first month of your post your join to lead recruitment, which will happen very soon. And you can use this again if you're considering to have a January recruitment later. But this particular sheet alone of team setting up obviously comes into place only during the first month of your term. Under the plan section, we have space for you to decide, break down your plan, not just state what your plan is, but break down your plan, decide strategies for it, multiple strategies, what are your KPIs, how are you going to track them. We have a timeline for you of when each strategy is going to be implemented. Sometimes you might feel that all these things are really easy and you might feel that you don't need someone or a tool to track this, but speaking from experience of being a VP, it makes things much more easier, and at the end of the year it even gives you satisfaction that you started off with a focus and you accomplish it at the end. So make sure you use this at every step. I in fact suggest that you keep this open at every functional meeting so that you do not lose track of what your initial focus or what your initial goal was. So that is the planning part of the team standards tool. Now we go on to training. In the training sheet, we have a lot of things you can fill in. Every function has a different training aspect to focus on. For example, marketing would want to focus on training of digital marketing and things like that, while IGT would want to focus on things like sales and pitching skills. So it's up to you what kind of training you wish to give to your team.
And please also refer back to the member education cycle that the national teams has designed on, and you can also find like a lot of resources based on what kind of training you should provide in each point of time. Then you can take that into account and design your own functional training cycle.
And there are certain things which every person in their local committee has to know. For example, what is our customer flow? What is even team standards, for example. So you have to come up with a timeline of when you want to educate each member about what. For example, basic knowledge about ISAC obviously has to be given in the first initial month of post recruitment, and then you can go on to training them more and increasing the level of training every month. So this is, as you can see on the screen, this is what the training sheet looks like. Again, at the end of the year, it will help you ensure that your members have got the kind of leadership experience that you promised to give them at the beginning before recruitment. And then we have a template for you for function meeting. It's going to make your function meeting so organized and so simple, because there's not going to be any additional waste of time. You're going to know exactly what you're going to do. It's going to help you keep things short and crisp, and it's going to help you focus on your goal for the day. So there's some kind of pre-preparation you have to do for function meeting, like deciding the agenda as a team leader, as deciding what you're going to talk about today. And you have to keep things ready and put it up on this function meeting template, so that once you get there, you can share it with your members and they can fill it up, and you actually will have everything in record, so that later after the meeting you can look back at it and you won't specifically have to have someone to take minutes. It's literally like everyone doing their part, so you have everything in record. And then we have monthly evaluation and review. As the name suggests, it's something which you're going to do at the end of every month, which is probably the last function meeting of every month. And you're basically going back on what you've achieved in the month, whether you've lived up to your plans or strategies. If the strategies did not work, do you have to change them? And if you have to change them, you can always go back to the tab of the sheet and then change your strategies. So this is a very comprehensive guide. Like, it guides you at every single step of your leadership experience and make sure that you achieve everything. And at the end of it, you're going to realize that you've actually fulfilled every aspect of team standards. So this particular one about evaluation is for you to fill up at the end of every month.
Yeah. And one of the main keynotes from my side is that don't take these two as however it looks like. Feel free to change it into whatever suits your LCs or your team reality. And just a clarification point, that is that each of these two, you make a copy, is not only for your LCs, is for particularly your team. So make sure that you you also type in, say, OGB team or team 1, team 2, whatsoever. You create your own team identity or whatsoever, and make sure that each of your team have one of these two instead of one of for your LCs. Or if you want, you can put your LCs together and create a lot of team building up and put that into 1, 2 for your LCs. But I think it's easier for you to set up 1, 2 for each team. And feel free to add different sheets that you think might be relevant. For example, Cherry, I think I should need the sheets in terms of 1-to-1, then why don't you add it there, or whatsoever. And then just make sure that it is useful for you, and create your own templates, create your own sort of guidelines that you think might be helpful for you to manage your team better. And yeah, don't take it as it is, and you can just change and play around it. And the final key message that I really want to tell you is that make sure that you have a plan in terms of when do you want to do what kind of things, as what Akshara has been mentioning. For example, team, you can put it in the first team meetings, that you fill in the sheets together by really getting to know each other. It's not just a spreadsheet, but is what behind it. As we said, we really want to encourage you to make team standard as actionable as possible. So it's the journey of how you go through each and every single one of these sheets, but not necessarily, this is not a tracking tool, and we won't track you based on this. We just want to help your team management life way easier. And it's just some guidance in terms of maybe you can go through these kind of aspects to be able to make sure that every single team experience that you deliver is up to a great level or great standards. And this might be something that you would like to cover during these topics and things. So yeah, don't take it as something that you must talk about team ground rules if you don't feel that is appropriate in your team. You can just take the bit that you feel is suitable and go and use this tool in a way that suits your team the most.
Yeah. So feel free to add comments at the end of this video of any questions you have, and we'll get back to you immediately. You can always message us, email us, and we're going to soon hold an open space as well. Yeah? We're going to hold an open space for you all to come online, and where you can discuss this with us and how you want to implement it. If there's anything you feel that is not going to be suitable at your LCs, and you feel that there's something you need from us, any kind of support, then we're going to let you know about the open space very soon. Okay?
Yeah, and also we'll launch some Team Standard 101 from all of our amazing leaders in ISEC UK from past year for the GCP in terms of different bits of Team Standard. For example, how to set up a team, or how can you run a very effective functional training, different kind of topics that they will cover in 2 minutes. So you can have a look, and we'll link it to our templates to all these tapes here. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.